My product represents social groups through the use of personality of the main character I have created. Margarete is a thriller and drama genre film telling the story of a 17-year-old girl who experiences a recurring dream. Margarete wakes up and receives a text message from Spencer. The audience can then see her walking towards an undesignated location as she picks her phone up to call someone. In the process of deciding what kind of film I wanted to make, I thought that a thriller and drama genre film would be perfect as I always enjoyed watching psychological and mysterious films, and I could likewise enjoy making an original opening scene of my own. I decided to rewatch some of my favorite films, including Brain on Fire, 7 Pounds on Transcendence, and specifically analyze their opening scene as a primary analysis of existing media texts, in order to familiarize with the shots and mise-en-scène. The films Brain on Fire and Midnight Sun mainly inspired me to create the story of my film opening, a story about a girl who experiences a post-traumatic stress disorder, and therefore I decided to include a reoccurring dream in the beginning of my opening scene. The reoccurring dream was inspired by Midnight Sun, as in the beginning of the film, a girl explains her dream she has been experiencing of her and her mother when she was young. This idea of a dream had me want to create something related to the human mind, as I decided to slightly integrate a delicate topic of a mental disorder, such as a post-traumatic stress disorder. I enjoyed the idea of making the audience believe they are watching something that is happening in the present time of the film and which makes them feel sympathy for the main character. I decided I wanted to focus my opening scene of telling a feeling rather than a story. My aim was to make the audience sympathize and create a suspense to what could possibly happen to her when she stops the call. And since we're in the modern era, I came to the conclusion that I would include an electronic device to mainly build my suspense on a text message Margaret receives. So before beginning my project, I also researched typical conventions of films based on a drama and thriller film in the technological era. I use these conventions regarding iconography for the opening scene I have created to set my product in realistic and believable settings, as well as with a realistic story, ultimately striving in a way to make the audience sympathize with Margaret. As for the shot types of drama and thriller films, I use close-ups and a panning shot of the protagonist's face in order to show her emotions, commonly in an opening scene of a thriller film. The close-up shot of Margaret's phone establishes the genre of the film, since my film represents a drama and thriller film in a technological age. However, I chose to challenge these conventions and now include more than 2 shots of the electronic device present. I decided to focus more on the script of my opening scene and only include 2 shots of Margaret's phone in order to make the audience comprehend specifically what Margaret has to say and not what they see. Besides that, the film challenges thriller conventions in the area of characters, as usually a thriller film has a protagonist in as a male character. In Margaret, I challenged the conventions by having a young teenage girl experience a mental disorder, which however uses the conventions of a thriller film, whose main character usually has a hidden identity and suffers from a mental disorder. I use the conventions of drama film at the beginning of my product, as quick shots of low-key lighting appear to present the main character to the audience in her bedroom. Following quick shots and changes in angle of shots and low-key lighting create a sense of a thriller film, specifically as Margaret stands up from her bed and the audience can see Margaret's shadow behind her. Nevertheless, I specifically integrated the same song throughout my product in order to understand the mood of the protagonist, as the slow pace make the shots more dramatic for the audience. However, it was difficult for me to choose from the many songs on the Spotify playlist I specifically created, as it had several songs that I really liked. I decided to stick with a simple song though, which had a steady rhythm and would not intervene with the voiceover that much. If I would have integrated a song like East Side by Sia with lyrics, this would have interfered with the idea I was trying to convey. As for the title, I thought it would be best to create one that would be short and appealing to the audience, and one that could be easily remembered. Also, because the majority of thriller films' titles consist of only 1 or 2 words, I decided to stick with my first idea and use the name of the main character Margaret as the title of my product. The main idea I had for my film opening was that I wanted to make it really interesting, specifically for people my age to really like it, and for people who suffer from this type of mental disorder to feel identified with. By having a teenage character as the protagonist, Margaret achieves to engage with audiences from the ages of 15 to 35. The film was also based in English, allowing it to reach multiple countries as the English language is one of the main languages in the modern era. What also engages with the audience is the costumes that the character wears. By wearing simple clothes, most of the audience can relate to the character and not look at Margaret as something superior just by the way she's dressed. The mise-en-scène also allows most of the audience to engage with my product even more as they are emphasized and feel identified with her. My product is based upon Margaret's tragedy that reoccurs in her dream. Margaret describes her emotional struggle and her post-traumatic stress disorder in a way which makes an impression to the audience to sympathize with what she's saying, even though she never reveals her tragedy and her mental disorder. The audience is kept on hook as she leaves her the suspense to what it is that makes her have hope. And as my product is based in the technological era, the phone that appears in two important parts of my product makes it more evident that it will be based in certain parts of the film to communicate with Spencer or maybe even another character in the film. So if you were to distribute it as a real media text, I would send it to Netflix or Film for Production so that they could analyze my product and decide if they would like to distribute it. I would use a social media network such as Twitter or Instagram to advertise it. By using Twitter, it would allow the audience to engage with the product and retweet it and add comments as to what they think about the character or what their favorite part of the film was. The audience would also be able to express any emotions they might feel, specifically what made them sympathize with Margaret or how the film was set in real settings with a realistic story. They would also be able to add the hashtag BTS to ask any questions they might have. I would also create a trailer which would be distributed on social media platforms such as YouTube and the Film 4 main channel. The Film 4 channel is known as a production company addressing distinctive subject matters that do not appeal to family audiences. And as my product addresses a tragedy and Margaret's post-traumatic stress disorder, the Film 4 audience would especially engage with my product. Instagram is also constantly increasing in popularity, so I could use the digital film poster I have created to show awareness of my product and advertise it to a broader audience, such as teenagers and adults, as they would see the film poster as a sponsored advertisement that appears while they're scrolling down their feed. My production skills developed in different ways as I was in charge of writing the script, filming my opening scene, and editing the whole product at the end. Alongside, it was necessary for me to gather pre-production information of different areas. This includes finding an actor, deciding on what mise-en-scène to use, and engaging with films in order to put my script together. I learned what the proper format is and what sort of language should be used in my script. In addition to this, I was in charge of writing the treatment, storyboard, shot list, and final ideas to my product and what inspired me to create it. I learned how to concisely write pitch ideas effectively. Since I have learned how to use the camera in my film tasks before my opening scene, including the preliminary task and the suite, my camera skills are not particularly developed. However, while shooting my product, I learned how to adjust the lighting to my scenes and what angles to shoot at to make my opening scene more dramatic. Apart from that, my editing skills developed immensely as I had no idea how to use the program I was planning to edit my product on. The reason to why I chose to edit on Premiere Pro was because it had much more tools than programs such as iMovie, which at the end helped me to improve the quality of my product and make it more appealing as a professional-looking film. By watching several YouTube videos, I taught myself how to use the program and I began to edit my product. In addition to this, my editing skills improved excessively before this project. It was an extremely interesting experience as to how much it took to get my film to look what I envisioned at the start of the project. I integrated technologies a lot throughout the process of my project. A hardware that I used to film was a Nikon camera in order to ensure maximum quality. I also used a tripod to stabilize my camera. I used the camera to shoot different shots of my product, which I put together in the software Adobe Premiere Pro. In terms of editing, I learned to use a program that I have never used before. It took me a couple of days to figure out how to use it with the help of YouTube video tutorials. However, finally, when I was ready to begin my editing process, I downloaded the clips onto Adobe Premiere Pro and began to merge the clips together in continuity film opening. Adobe Premiere Pro allowed me to use different editing styles and adjust basic color integrating layers, such as contrast, brilliance, and shadows. The color integrating process was by far the longest process, as the program provided me with a better look than the standard C-Log image on my camera, and I wanted to make my project the best piece I have ever done. I spent a lot of time adjusting details to my film opening in terms of color integrating and using fade-outs and fade-ins. The software also allowed me to put together my title sequence and credits, which I found on one of the downloaded files on the software. The file had a variety of fonts and title sequence fonts, which were easily accessible as I only had to choose which font I would like to use and it would locate the credit for me. This also enhances my title sequence in a way which made it seem more professional looking than if I would have dragged it somewhere onto the shot by myself. I decided to use SoundCloud to download the music as it was free and most of the music on there is non-copyright. When I finished my final product, I uploaded it onto YouTube and later on posted a link onto my Blogger account. So I have decided that I would like to receive some constructive feedback on my film opening, as I believe it helps me understand how well I did in the eyes of my peers. It also allows me to understand what I could have done better if I were to continue my film or do this task again. Therefore, I created a Google form and shared it with my classmates, where they could respond to the following questions anonymously. 1. Do you think my product engages with the audience? 2. How does it engage or not engage with you? 3. Do you have any suggestions on how I could have improved my opening scene? From the 5 responses I have gathered, majority of the audience identified with yes, the product engages with the audience as it is set in a realistic environment and which makes the audience feel identified with the main character. This makes the audience eager to continue watching the film. My film opening uses a variety of shots which apply to different drama and thriller film genre conventions. My product met the needs of the audience based specifically on the peer feedback I have received. I was able to engage the audience to the extent where 80% of the audience specified their answer to yes. My product engages with the audience and they would continue watching the rest of the film. The following comments were said to be the best part of my work. However, the following improvements could have also been made. Most of them specified were regarding the audio of my product. I believe the weakness of my product was the audio, as I could have spent more time on adjusting the voiceover to the shots more carefully in order to have the last shot of my opening scene not be as loud. Regardless, I am very happy of my end product as I have spent a lot of time on the filming and editing process, and even though I have encountered some difficulties with reshooting my shots, I have learned a variety of things which will be very helpful for me next year.